As an educator, Ms. Clayton, how can financial literacy help students?
A whole lot. I'm going to tell you a story. I remember, my students, I always have a good relationship with my students. And so when they have reading week, they come back and they talk to me. When they're finished their program, they will come back and talk to me. And, in the heydays when things were great, the economy was better, they used to come back and say, hey, miss, I got a job. Some of them, Yahoo, Facebook, Google, you know, engineers, regular engineers, the doctors will become doctors, the lawyer, the lawyers, and of course the dentists and nurses and so on. But I would say, if we cut out COVID, that's like 2 years, the past 5 years, I find that my kids were coming to complain that they're not getting the jobs that they desire, what they expected to get when they leave school. And they were in student loan debt and they were in credit card debt, right? Some of them complained that the credit card camp out at the universities incentivize them to take it by giving them water bottles, giving them gift cards, right, and points, and say it's an emergency card. Well, you know what one of my students said to me, Miss, since I got that card, it's like every day I have an emergency, right? And they tell them they just need to pay the minimum payment, right?
Yes.
Which is a hoax, because you pay that minimum payment, Andrew, they will never pay off those bills, right? It's like they have this burden of loan around their neck for a very long time. And so if in school we teach them about how because credit card, it's awesome, right? Because I would say credit card, that's the only place you can get money to use for 30 days free, no interest, right? But what a lot of people do not know is that is only if you carry a balance of 0, right? Because as long as you have a recurrent balance, there is no grace period. And so the key is to pay it off every month. If you can't afford it, do not use it, right? Because you're not going to get that grace period. If we teach kids these things in school, that would be very useful to them. The thing we want to teach them in school is the importance of paying themselves first. Just the same way government takes their payment first. Notice when you get your paycheck, government, Uncle Truda takes off his piece first. Wow. How about you? How about you say, okay, Uncle Truda takes his piece. Well, how about we put it a little bit aside and say, okay, that's for me, and spend what's left over, because out of sight, out of mind. If you don't see it, you won't spend it. And that little amount, right? The power of compound interest, it will start growing, right? And that is having some money working for you, so that later on, when they need student loan, they probably wouldn't have to take as much, because it keeps growing. Sometimes when they get little gifts, right? I know even my own children, they get, monetary gifts. And I always say to them, you get $20, put away $10. You don't need it. Take the $10 and do whatever. But at least you have that $10 saving. And the saying, little by little, a little becomes a lot, right? You'll be surprised how that little bit amount can grow. I remember I said to my students, you can save $300, a month. And they're like, $300 a month, miss? No, there's no way. And I'm like, I see you going across the mall to buy a bubble tea, and buy the McDonald's slushes and whatnot. You think you can save $10 a day? And they're like, yeah, I guess I can do $10 a day. And I say to them, well, how many days do we have in a month? They're like, well, 30 days. I'm like, okay, let's do the math. 30 times 10, what do we have there? And they're like, that's $300, miss. You're right. So I said, $300 a month, you put that away, right? At a moderate interest, you'll be surprised how much that grows. But by the time you get certain ages, you have like $500,000, which you didn't even do much. You just put it away, and compound interest does work for you. You teach kids these things the same way you teach them numeracy and literacy, right? You should be teaching them about money at the same time. And when that becomes a part of their psyche, they will grow with that mindset, right? And that will change the trajectory of some of our kids, because generational wealth, what we have in some ethnic group, generational wealth is not a thing, right? And because of that, they struggle from generation to generation. But if we can have the concept of building some wealth, right? So that we have some generation wealth to move on to the next generation, and then they keep doing the same thing, then the whole thing changed. Tremendous changes into how we move on. When it comes to managing our finances and financial success for everyone.